I have been a makeup artist and an esthetician for over 30 years, and one of the hardest things that I ever had to deal with was having rosacea, and I got diagnosed in my 40s. And today on Beauty and F-Bombs, I'm going to take you behind the scenes. I'm going to tell you everything that I know about rosacea, and if you've just been diagnosed with it or you think this is something that you might have, you're definitely going to want to stick around for this episode, because let me tell you, this one's going to be a juicy one. This one's going to be a long one, so just get ready, strap in, grab a coffee, take a walk, take a drive. If you're flying, this would be a great podcast to listen to, and I hope you enjoy it. So let's dive in. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Beauty and F-Bombs. And today we are talking about rosacea. And you might be thinking, so Roselli, what the hell gives you credibility to even talk about this shit? Well, as an esthetician and a makeup artist and seeing people in my makeup studio in Chicago for 20 years, I also do product development. I also have my skincare line, Sonia Roselli Beauty, and I've created this with people with sensitive skin and rosacea prone skin in mind. But the other thing that I'm just going to kind of tell you that just kind of geeks me out, while most people are reading like really groovy books on Amazon or on Kindle or whatever the hell they read their books on, this is my reading material, clinical dermatology. And if you don't have this book, oh my God, this book is crazy. Like the shit that's in this book, like some of the stuff is just like friggin' gross. So if you're watching me on video right now, and if you're not listening to me on a podcast, this book is just crazy insane. I watch all of this stuff, or I read all this stuff, and I just take it all in, and it's just like, I don't know. And now when I have ChatGPT, if I don't understand something, I can just put it in and I'm like, explain it to me like I'm 5. And so I'm like, oh, I get it. Because, I don't understand all those complicated medical terms. I don't have time to sit there, learn how to be a doctor. So I just wanted to let you know very quick that I am not a doctor, okay? And so everything that I am telling you today is from my experience, but also from reading a ton of medical textbook about skin moisturization, sensitive skin. These are all medical textbooks. I study this like it's my job because, well, it kind of is. So don't worry about taking notes. Just come with me on this journey. I'm going to have everything broken down. All of the notes from this podcast are going to be in our Substack. If you want to watch this on video, you can also see this on Substack as well. There's also going to be links to the products. Everything is there. Just go to your show notes and just follow the link there and then join me there on Substack. As someone who was diagnosed with rosacea, I'm going to give you a little bit of my story and how it got started. So I was 37 when I had a total hysterectomy. Girl, they took it all. Or boy, if you're listening. And one of the things that happened about 1.5 years, 2 years after my hysterectomy was that I went into a full-blown rosacea flare. So I'm just going to say it. I was one of those holes that had really beautiful skin my whole life. I didn't really have to try too hard. I was very fortunate. Now, my fat ass, that was another story. I always had to watch my weight. But when it came to my skin, I was very fortunate. Now, I did take good care of my skin, except for the times in the teenage years that I laid out in tanning beds. Sorry, skin. But it was very easy for me to take care of. And when I started getting rosacea, it was definitely an ass kicker for me, especially because I was an esthetician and a makeup artist. And it was really hard internally for me to sell my services to people who wanted to improve their skin when my skin didn't look that great. So it was a little bit of a kick in the crotch, to be quite honest. And so it was definitely one of those times that when I was flaring really, really bad, when I would go out and I just felt so insecure. And as someone who's never felt really insecure, I've always been very confident. It was one of those times that was the time that I really truly understood what it felt like for people to have acne or to have any kind of really bad skin issue. And I definitely felt empathy for those people. And it actually made me a better esthetician moving forward, because it was like, oh, I get it now. I mean, I understood, but I never got it. Never walked in their shoes, if that made sense. And so this is why that I have gotten very into studying rosacea, because when I was an esthetician, I didn't really specialize in anything. I mean, I specialized in fine lines and the texture of the skin, but I didn't really specialize in anything until I got started with the rosacea journey. And so today I'm going to take you what I have learned. I'm going to show you you everything. I'm going to talk about everything. So first and foremost, I am not a doctor. I don't pretend to be a doctor. I'm not going to bullshit you. And if I don't know the answer to a question, I know friends and doctors that I can call, and I know how to research, and I know how to explain it to you where it would make sense to you, right? If you ever see me or if you ever have a question, if I don't know the answer to something, I'm going to tell you, because I'm not going to sit here and pretend and bullshit you that I know everything about rosacea, because I don't. But I do love to study it because it's something that I struggle with, and I do want to help people with rosacea because, believe it or not, it's a very common condition. So let's talk about what rosacea is exactly. So rosacea is a chronic inflammatory problem, and it really looks like you're red all the time, or you're red in what we call the butterfly pattern of the face. That's like your classic rosacea symptoms, but you can have it all over, basically, which is one of the misconceptions that they have. The other thing is you can get what they call acne rosacea, and that is where you get pimples on your skin, and they're usually acne-like bumps, but you don't really have blackheads most of the time. And that's one of your first signs that you have the acne rosacea. So this is a picture of me again, and this is one of my worst flares that I ever had. And this is acne rosacea. And if you look close, I mean, it's kind of an older photo, but if you look close, you don't really see blackheads. They're more of just like clear bumps, maybe a little bit of whitehead in there, but not really. It's just kind of like mostly these clear little bumps that are on the skin. And then look how red my skin is. It's like crazy. The other thing is you'll have visible broken blood vessels like spider veins and things. I tend to get them around here on my nose a lot and on my upper lip here. And then the other thing is you can also just have your skin feels like it's on fire all the time. And if you're a woman of a certain age, it's going to feel like hot flashes definitely trigger a flare. So now let's talk about some of the misconceptions of rosacea and what rosacea is. Now, one of the misconceptions that I have noticed over the years is that many doctors have not really looked at people of color when it comes to rosacea. And people of color can absolutely have rosacea. Now, it is definitely more common in Northern European type skin types, the fairer skin, but it's not just lucky folks who get that. Darker skin tones can get it too. So some of the appearance differences of rosacea in darker skin tones is usually the deeper skin tones, the redness appears as a purple brownish color, and it may look like hyperpigmentation. So this is the first clue, right? If you think, oh, I've got a lot of hyperpigmentation, well, you might have rosacea. It's probably a good idea to get in with your dermatologist and have a look-see. The other thing with darker skin tones is the blood vessels tend to be harder to see visually. And so that's why doctors usually have to use this really special tool to come in here and look to see what that looks like. The other key difference in darker skin tones is your breakouts, the papules and pustules. They do tend to look a little bit more noticeable than just the redness. So those are some key signs. So if you have darker skin tone and you think that you might have this condition, it's definitely worth scheduling a time with your dermatologist to get a look at. Now let's talk about some of the challenges of getting a good rosacea diagnosis. So the first thing about getting a diagnosis and what is so hard about it a lot of times, especially when you have the kind of rosacea that I have, which is the acne rosacea, or if you have a darker skin tone, is that you can often get misdiagnosed with either having eczema or even lupus or acne. One of the really bad things about that is that when you think that you have acne and you start treating your rosacea like you have acne, well, girl, it just pisses your skin off even more. And it's just like, fuck no, you didn't. Your skin just feels like it's on fire all the time. So this is why that if you think that the doctor has misdiagnosed you or it doesn't make sense, go see another doctor. Get a second opinion. Get a third opinion if you have to. Again, being an advocate for your own health is so key here. Trust me, ask me how I know. The other thing is a skin type, say fair skin, is not a barrier to developing the condition. So that is why the people of color as well also tend to put it off longer and then have to deal with the consequences of rosacea for longer because they do get misdiagnosed probably about 30 or 40% more than people that are of fair skin tones, because it's just genetically predisposed that we're going to probably have rosacea, right? But that's not always the case. Again, be an advocate for your own health. And one of the other challenges when it comes to rosacea is a lot of times people get misdiagnosed with having eczema too. And they're two different, completely different things. With rosacea, you tend to be more red here, and you have pustules and papules. If you have the acne type of rosacea, you'll have the broken capillaries, you'll have that butterfly pattern that you see on your face, where eczema can occur anywhere on the body. It is itchy, it is scaly, and it has scaly patches, often in the folds of the body. And the wrong treatments can also worsen either condition when it comes to rosacea or eczema. So it's really, really key to get a proper diagnosis with your doctor. A lot of times when it comes to eczema, a lot of times they'll give you steroid creams, but with rosacea, it actually makes the rosacea worse. So this is why it's really important to ask the right questions. So how does rosacea begin, and then how does it progress? For me, rosacea literally happened overnight, or what it seemed like overnight. Now, I was noticing that my skin was a little bit dry, it was a bit drier and a little bit more red, but I didn't have the acne rosacea yet. I was noticing that, but I also lived in Chicago where it was like 2 degrees or 50 below on certain days, and there was no humidity in the air, there was the dry heat. And so when I first started noticing the rosacea or the redness in my skin was probably in the wintertime, which kind of tracked. If you live in a cold climate, if you know, you know, or if you live in a desert climate, you know, you know. But one day I woke up and it was just, my face was just in a full-blown flare, similar to the one that is here. It was like, what the hell? And the only thing that I thought of, because it just did not look like rosacea to me, was I thought, well, what the hell kind of makeup did I play in? Because I was a makeup artist, right? And I would play in all kinds of makeup, and I would get into everything. And anytime that I was around makeup, I could get it on my hands or I could touch it on my face. Even if I didn't put it on my face, it would transfer, right? So for me, it showed up overnight. But for most people, it gradually comes on. But again, every rosacea story is different. So let that be your first clue, okay? So if you start noticing your skin tends to get a little bit red, or maybe it feels a little bit raw or irritated, you might want to start paying attention to that. So I have good news and I have bad news. The bad news, rosacea is not curable. But the good news is there are tons of fabulous treatments on the market now that will really help manage your rosacea and have your skin looking a lot like mine. You know, I'm 56. I'm going to get really close here if you're watching me on camera. I only have a very little bit of a tinted moisturizer on, but I do all the things to my face. And so my rosacea looks fantastic. I don't flare. Now, one of the things that I like to tell people is rosacea can also go into remission. And that means you can go 2 or 3 years without having any type of flare and your skin is good. I kind of have a theory about this. I almost call it skin cycling. And I'm going to do another whole podcast on that as well. But for the most part, just know that you could go years without having any kind of flare. And then you could go a whole year and all your face is doing is just piss. I mean, it's a persnickety bitch and it just has a mind of its own. So just know that rosacea is not curable, but it is manageable. The first thing I want to talk about when it comes to rosacea and the kind of the science behind it, we're going to talk about mast cells and Cathelicidins. I don't think that's the right way to say it, but you get my point. Okay. So the first thing is you have your mast cells, and mast cells are basically, they release these little histamine, and that causes the swelling and redness in the skin. So that's one of the first things that's happening. And that is why when I first got kind of like having symptoms of rosacea, I thought I was having an allergic reaction. Well, what's the first thing that you do when you think you're having an allergic reaction? You take a Benadryl, right? And it helped a little. It wasn't perfect, but it did help ever so slightly. So I literally could be flaring and look like this when I went to bed at night, and then I could look like this when I woke up the next day. It was fucking crazy, right? But it kind of makes a little bit of sense of what's happening. Now, is that completely scientific? No, that's just my own testing the shit, what I noticed when I would journal and talk about what I did, because I definitely kept a skin journal. I'm a nerd like that. And then the other thing is called, okay, this is where I'm going to really butcher this. It's called Cathelicidins. I don't know if that's right. Y'all can come from me, but don't lose your shit if I mispronounce it. Okay. We're here to just learn the things, right? So these are the proteins that are meant to fight germs, but in healthy skin, it basically attacks the skin. And for those of us that have rosacea, that's what's happening. Now, they also think there is a gut-skin connection when it comes to rosacea. Now, I will tell you, for me, it doesn't mean it works for everybody, because remember, rosacea's journey is different for every single one of us. When I take probiotics, it definitely helps my skin for me. But the jury's still out. I mean, it's pretty, there's a lot of scientific data that's published that says that that is true. But I'm kind of like, okay, but it doesn't work for everybody. Is that real science? I don't know. You be the judge of that. That is just something that I have noticed for myself. And I'm going to show you, this is the product that I use. I can get this one on Amazon. I didn't have any. I actually just ran out. And I take this daily. But this is a probiotic that I take every day. And I'll go into that a little bit more when we start talking about medication. So the other science behind rosacea and what's actually happening in the skin is what they call Demodex mites. And Demodex mites are these microscopic mites. They live on the hair follicles of our skin. And they are basically, they just kind of live on our skin. They don't even pay rent, these fuckers, but they live on all of our skin. But people with rosacea tend to have a lot more of these on the skin. And they may trigger immune response in the skin, and so that's why we might get these problems. But this is why that we take something like the Ivermectin, or what they also call as Soolantra, and we're going to go over the medications in just a minute, but this is what is treating that. So these mites are kind of these little bastards that are living on your skin going, hey man, we want to party, we want to fuck your face up, but then you're just like, okay, whatever. But for us, yeah, we got more of those living in our house. They're breeding like rabbits over there is all I can say. So that's some of the things that are happening with your skin. Now let's talk about treating rosacea. Now I'm going to tell you everything that I have done on my face. I have all of the things right here, and we're going to go over it, and I'm going to tell you what has worked for me and what has not, and let's just get into it. So the first, this is the Ivermectin cream. This is something that I put on every day, and this is what we think is going to calm down the inflammation. It's going to help the redness, and it's really kind of targeting those Demodex mites. And so this is what I use. You can get this from the doctor. So it's, I think, 1% ivermectin cream, and you can use that as well. And these are prescription medications. So this is a must-have that works for me. And again, I tend to get red, but I'm usually just more red around my nose. But I do get red right through here of my cheeks and on my chin and like right here on my forehead, that classic butterfly pattern, okay? Now, the other one that I like to use is the Doxycycline, and these are a low-dose antibiotic. I think these are 40 milligram. Yeah, these are 40 milligram low-dose antibiotic, and this just helps with the inflammation and the redness and the pustules and papules that you get with the acne rosacea. My skin looks so good when I take these, and I just love it. This is just another one that I love. Now, the other one is Rhofade. This one, it helps you with the temporary reduction of redness in the skin. Now, I am going to be doing a live this Sunday at 9 o'clock Central Time or 10 a.m. Eastern Time, and I'm going to show you how I do my makeup for rosacea. And I don't know if you are somebody that has had rosacea. You know how everybody used to say, use a green corrector? I mean, dermatologists are still saying that shit. I'm like, bitch. No, don't use a green corrector. Come on now, use this. This is way better, and it's not going to leave a green film on your skin because most people out there don't know how to use a green corrector, okay? Let's just skip the green corrector. You don't even need to deal with it. Yes, I said the quiet part out loud. Doctors, stop telling people to give them the green corrector. Sorry, not sorry. And then I use my Water Elixir here with it. I mix these two. Let me tell you, this is probably my favorite product for rosacea. If you are 1 to 10 red on your face, this is going to pull your redness down to about a 4. Keep in mind, this is only temporary. For me, it lasts about 8 or 10 hours, but I think you can go up to 12 hours, I believe. Yeah, 10 to 12 hours of relief. But for me, it lasts about 8 to 10, but I tend to run hot. Menopause is a bitch. But this one is by far my favorite. So when I get up in the morning, I put on my Water Elixir, and then I put on my Rhofade, and I like those two together. Now, you're supposed to put this on first and then put on your skincare, but I tend to like to put on Water Elixir first and then put this on after that. I don't know, for me, it works better, but you can try both if you use our skincare products. But together, and then my skin just looks looks so good. As a matter of fact, it looks so good that I had a girl that used to work for me, shout out Mallory. She came over one day and I had put this on about an hour before she got to my house. And she was like, do you feel okay? And I was like, what do you mean? And she goes, you look really pale. And I was like, bitch, that's my skin. And I looked in the mirror. I was like, oh, yeah, no, my redness is gone. And people are just not used to seeing me without all the redness in my face. And so they were like, girl, you okay over there? I was like, yeah. So Rhofade is one of my favorites. So the next thing that I do is I also do lasers, and I am going to I'm going to do a whole laser podcast, and we're going to break down all the lasers, but I have to film it. So I need to go see my gal Shannon at Ladera Park, and hopefully we can talk about it a little bit more. That'll probably be towards the end of this month when we launch that. But I do lasers and I do IPL and then I do microneedling. And next week, my microneedling video drops for our paid subscribers in Substack. Make sure that you are subscribed to our Substack if you want to see the whole journey of my skin. And I take you throughout the journey. I show you what I get done, how it's done, and then I take you how the skin heals for the 10 or 12 days after microneedling. Now, you can do lasers, but again, every rosacea journey is different. So you definitely want to work with your dermatologist to make sure that the lasers are good for you. I cannot stress this enough, you guys. Work with your dermatologist because unfortunately, I do think there's a lot of great estheticians out there, but they are hard to come by these days, or that has been my experience. They don't stay on top of their education and they just treat every person that gets in their chair or on their table the same. I mean, I can't even tell you every time that I've gone in to get facials and they've definitely started using stuff, and then I would ask them questions, and I'm just like, no, girl, do not put that on my face. And I don't want to be one of those assholes that be like, no, don't do that. I'm an esthetician. I actually try not to tell them that when I go in because I just want to see how they're rolling. And let me tell you, I had one girl use straight up beads on my skin, and this was my face 2 days afterwards. Yeah. And I knew better. I didn't say anything. I was just like, just roll with it, Roselli, just roll with it. And that was me for a week and a half. And I had to really baby my skin for about 2 weeks to get it to calm down again. So that was crazy. So we're going to talk about lasers. And those are some of the more advanced treatments too, like your pulse dye laser. You have your ND laser, which penetrates deeper. That's for thickening skin because rosacea can cause thickening skin, which we're going to talk about in a minute. Now there's intense pulse light. And that's one of the ones that I do quite often, and I'm getting very good results with. I think I've had 2, maybe 3 treatments of it, and I do have to do it once a year to maintain. But that is definitely, it's called intense pulse light, but it's not a laser, but it's basically a little beam of light, and it really calms down the redness of the skin. And so that has been one of my favorites, but we're going to break all that down in our laser episode. So one of the questions that people with rosacea have always asked is, can I use Tretinoin when I have rosacea? And one of the things that I tell people is, again, this is why working with your dermatologist, you need to be BFFs with them, like I'm BFFs with mine, and just be like, hey girl, can I use it? And they'll ask you a lot of questions and they will tell you whether or not you can use it. Now, I use the Tretinoin cream. It's 0.025%, as you see here. This is like your starter dose. And then I buffer it with our Water Elixir. So I lay my Water Elixir down first, and then I put the Tretinoin on top. And then I only do this, I think, 2 times a week. And then I use Sex Appeal to kind of take off any flaking of the skin. But again, some people cannot use it. And some people cannot use any kind of AHAs or beta hydroxy acids. There are PHAs, which are a little bit gentler. You can sometimes experiment with enzymes. But again, your mileage may vary depending on your rosacea. Again, work with your dermatologist to find something that works for you. Now let's talk about preventing flares and triggers when it comes to rosacea. So, you've probably heard, oh, I can't drink wine, I can't eat spicy food, I can't have hot drinks. Well, let me tell you, I do all of that, but I do it in moderation. And let me tell you what that looks like, because these are some of the things that can trigger rosacea. But I will tell you, for me personally, one of the things that triggers my rosacea big time is the sun. The sun will tear me up. My husband laughs at me because that man would lay out like a flank steak under a broiler. And let me tell you, I did too in my early teen years. I would lay out in tanning beds. It was not good to my skin. Not going to lie. Gen X kids, holla if you know. But the sun will tear me up. And when the humidity and the dew point goes down in Texas that will really tear my skin up. Those are the two things that really trigger my rosacea. The other thing that triggers my rosacea a lot is using a lot of makeup, like cheap makeup. Yeah, the cheap makeup will tear me up. And some of the really fragrant makeup, like I love a lot of the bougie makeup, but it's got so much fragrance and perfume in it. It will literally light me up like a Christmas tree. I'm not even kidding. So those are some of the triggers for me. But let me tell you some of the big triggers for all types of rosacea. Number one is the sun exposure. Number two, hot weather or dry environments. Now, it can be cold and dry, and you can still get a rosacea flare. Spicy food and alcohol, especially red wine, those are two of the things that can usually trigger rosacea. Now, I tend to do better with white wine that's a little bit chilled, and sometimes I will even keep ice in it. But that is just something that keeps my face good. And then I also keep water next to me, and I drink water with my wine if I do have wine, which I'm not a big drinker. It's not really that big of a deal for me. But if you do love your wine, maybe look at considering and maybe switching to white wine. The other thing is stress. Now, listen, that's easier said than done. We're not going to do any of that toxic positivity here. We're not going to, clear your chakras or any shit like that. Do what you need to do to manage your stress. Now, for me, I get massages every 2 weeks because I have such a high stress kind of job. I love my job, but it's high stress. And so that's something that I gift for myself. I also have learned to say no to a lot of things, and that didn't really come until my 40s. Learning how to say no to things and not, I don't know, what do you say? You just got to say no to shit that just doesn't matter and just stop caring. That's one of the things that I find that a lot of people that have a lot of stress is just they overcommit to shit. The other thing, this is going to feel really weird to even say out loud, but the other thing that tends to make my skin like on fire or hot, believe it or not, I don't even know if there's any scientific fact behind it, when I spend too much time on social media. Go figure. Or when I watch too much of the news. I can't do it. My skin starts to turn red. I start to get hot flashes. I think it's just because I'm such an empath and I just take it all in. And let me tell you, when I used to do weddings and stuff and I used to touch people all the time, this sounds crazy, but my skin was worse. When I stopped doing makeup on people and stopped doing weddings, my skin got infinitely better as well. So stress is definitely a huge, huge trigger. All right, so now let's talk about some prevention strategies for your rosacea. Okay, first and foremost, non-negotiable, and I hate saying it because I hate wearing it, is sunscreen. I hate wearing sunscreen with the passion of 1,000 suns. I know I said the quiet part out loud. I'm an esthetician. I should know better. And next month is Skin Cancer Awareness Month, and I have definitely get skin cancer checks all the time. But let me tell you, it is definitely one of the things that will help your rosacea feel much better. Now, for me, I do better with all zinc sunscreens. I can't use the zinc and titanium together. Just don't like the way it feels. But the all zinc sunscreens tend to do well. Now, the other ones that I love, and I'm going to talk about this in a post on our Substack, are the Japanese sunscreens. And these, again, are beautiful. I think if you listened to my podcast last week, we talked a little bit about it. But these are the Japanese sunscreens. They feel like skincare. They're just so fantastic on the skin, but they don't really leave any kind of white residue on the face, hardly any fragrance at all. And so your mileage may vary. So you might want to check out some of the sunscreens that I'm going to be posting on our Substack later next week, or this month, I should say. Sunscreen is really good because when I stay on top of my sunscreen, my skin is so much better. Now, my skin tends to like the zinc only sunscreens, and sometimes you can find the zincs that are a little bit more clear. I haven't been able to find a lot lately, but there are some on the market. There used to be one that I think my Shell had years ago, but then I haven't been able to find it again. But the zincs tend to do better with my skin than the titanium and zinc. One thing that I will tell you is one of the things that will tear my face up are the chemical sunscreens, and they tend to be very irritating and cause burning and rosacea. And all of my dermatologist friends have said that when they have rosacea patients, again, everything is different. Everybody's different. But rosacea tends to have a lot of flares from the chemical sunscreens. So just look for what they call mineral sunscreens and make sure that you're trying those instead of the chemical sunscreens. If you see things like, is it avobenzone, those kinds of things, again, hooked on phonics, those are the ones you want to stay away from. Look for sunscreens that say physical sunscreen or mineral sunscreen. Now let's talk about your skin strategy for getting your rosacea under control and some of the routines that you want to think about when it comes to rosacea. You know, rosacea is kind of known as a chronic barrier dysfunction, so to speak. Your barriers just doesn't work the same way as everybody else's. And so that is why that you're seeing a lot of barrier repair type things on the market. Our Intense Barrier Cream is one of them. It's so fantastic for rosacea. It's fragrance free. It has enough water in there to keep the skin super hydrated, but then it kind of creates a barrier on the skin to keep the transepidermal water loss. Our water oil is also fantastic for repairing that barrier. And you want to look for things like ceramides, niacinamide, any type of hyaluronic acid, and you definitely always want to apply your products on damp skin because it tends to absorb better. This is why that we use Water Elixir in our skincare line. Water Elixir is that first step to put everything on your skin to get your skin ready for everything else. So we also have this barrier repair trio, and we're going to talk about the skin cycling in another episode, but whenever you're flaring, this is the kit that I tell people just to use. Don't use anything else except this barrier repair trio. And if you can avoid makeup or avoid wearing makeup on your face, you can wear your eye makeup, but wear just nothing on your face while you're flaring. That tends to be better because you're not having to remove the makeup and irritating and aggravating that skin even more. So the barrier repair trio is my favorite when you're flaring. And even if you're in a maintenance phase and you're in what we call that remission stage. So some of the ingredients that I want you to look out for when it comes to rosacea. Now, when you are shopping for products, you want to stay away from alcohols, but not all alcohols are bad. So let's talk about the bad alcohols, okay? These are what we call drying alcohols. And I'm trying to explain all of this in a very layman's terms so that it's very easy for everybody to understand. And these are the ethanol or ethyl alcohol, the denatured alcohol, you may see it as SD alcohol, the isopropyl alcohol, which is probably a lot of the stuff like you would have in your kitchen, the benzol alcohol, and then menthol. Those are some of the alcohols that they're just too drying on the skin. They're going to be very irritating to rosacea, and they're just not going to work for the skin. Now, we do have what we call good fatty alcohols. Now, these are good and hydrating to the skin, and these are things like cetyl alcohol and stearyl alcohol, arcadyl alcohol. If you want to see the list, just go to my Substack. It's crazy because when I'm talking to Japan, they're like, what alcohol? And I'm like, let me just text it to you. So those are your good fatty alcohols, and those are the ones that are good in the skin. But the other list, the drying alcohols, those are the ones you want to avoid. So when you are shopping for products, turn it on the back, and if it says alcohol on it or some of those drying alcohols, you may want to skip it. Now, there may not be that much in there. It may just be some sort of way to stabilize the product, but for the most part, I would just avoid it altogether. Now, some people have said, Sonia, can I use retinols? Well, one of the things that I will tell you is I probably would avoid retinols, especially if you're having a flare. So I know we talked about Tretinoin, which is basically helps your cells turn over faster. And some people have asked if they can use AHAs, BHAs, those kinds of things. And I would say, it really depends. Your skin, it really depends. If you have a very mild case of rosacea, like barely there, maybe you can get away with it. But for the most part, ask your doctor. Sonia, can I use retinol with rosacea? Well, the answer is, again, it depends. Your mileage may vary. So if your rosacea is flaring, absolutely not. Step away from the retinol. Don't do it. Don't touch it. I told you so. But if it's under control, a retinol may help your texture of your skin over time. Now, one of the ways that I can tell you if you do want to use it, definitely want to talk to your doctor, ask if it's okay, because they will tell you if it's okay or not. If they're like, girl, no. Now, one of the things you want to keep in mind is you want to use no more than 0.25% maximum initially, okay? And then you only want to use it once a week, building up to 2 to 3 times a week, a lot like I did this Tretinoin. You also want to buffer. So that means you want to create like a sandwich method. This is why the Water Elixir is great for that. So you want to apply this over your Water Elixir, or you want to apply it over your moisturizer. The other thing is I would suggest is only using it nighttime to avoid the sun exposure. Now, there are brands that have said that there are gentler alternatives, and that's bakuchiol, which is a plant-derived retinol alternative. But let me tell you, that's will also tear my skin up. I will look like my face like a grill on the 4th of July. It just, I mean, I probably got one of my worst flares from using bacitracin. So that I would just say, again, your mileage may vary. There is azelaic acid, and I do very well with azelaic acid. Now, I am using my azelaic acid more than I am using this. I use my azelaic acid a little bit more in the summertime, and then I use the Tretinoin more in the winter. I just, how I roll. Now, there are these new ones that have come out over the last couple of years that are PHAs. They are cousins of retinols, and so these are great for exfoliation as well. But again, your mileage may vary, so treat it with kid gloves. Now let's talk about getting facials when you have rosacea. So I love to get facials, I'm not going to lie. And I do have one girl here in Texas that I like. I'm not going to give out her name because I don't want to be able not to get an appointment with her, but there are people that do specialize in rosacea. So you probably want to see if you can find someone that is good with rosacea or with sensitive skin. Look for those people. I find that estheticians who have been an esthetician for a long time that know the old school way of doing things sometimes have the better knowledge. Not always. There are some newer ones. I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, so don't lose your shit. But I love those people that have been an esthetician for a while because we learned about skincare before there was the internet, when real people taught the subject, right? And so, or you nerd out like me and read clinical dermatology books. So that is just something to look out for. Now, these are some of the things that you do not want to do on your face. Number one, you probably don't want to do too hard or too rough of manual massage to the face, or if they do, they should use a lighter touch. The other thing is they probably do not want to use hot towel compresses on the skin. They're definitely going to want to use cooler compresses. And if you get into a treatment room and they start steaming your face automatically without asking you any questions, that's your first red flag. Now, sometimes I do like the steam, and I'll let them kind of hit me here on the chest just to kind of get that kind of aroma, or not the aroma, but that kind of feeling of being in a spa. When you hear the steam, it just kind of feels very relaxing. Sometimes they'll use it like somewhere here on my body, but it won't really come near my face. But the other thing is just always make sure that they're using a cool cloth to kind of remove everything, because that's just going to actually work better for your skin. The other thing that I would tell you is you want to focus on the cheeks, and you kind of want to avoid the nose, especially if you tend to get red there. Just kind of let them know to just be really, really about working around your nose as well. The other thing, no hot stones, no hot towels, no hot anything on or near the face. Even if your rosacea is under control, I'm just going to say absolutely not, because it could throw you into a flare. The other thing is, again, no visible scrubbing devices, nothing with granules or anything too harsh. I just find that that's really not that great for the skin. Now, we do have gommages, and gommages are hit or miss. There are certain gommages that can be too rough with rosacea, but something like our Sex Appeal, which doesn't have any grit or any fine granules, that's just basically sticking to the skin. So it's basically a chemical and a manual exfoliator all in one. So you just apply it to the skin, and you just kind of roll the skin off, and it just gently takes off a little bit of that top layer of the stratum corneum or the horny layer. And that's going to help take that top layer off so that your moisturizers can penetrate a lot better and help your barrier work better for itself. And again, no steam treatments before or after, and avoid any massage during an active flare on your face. So those are some of the things to not do when you do a facial. So again, look for someone that specializes in rosacea if you do want to get facials. Now, some people will say, well, how often should I get a facial? Well, I like to go when the seasons change. That's the minimum for me. I don't think you need to go every month. I think that's just overkill for most people, unless you're under dermatologist directions or things like that, because I feel like Americans, we love to clean our face like we clean our kitchen, and we don't need to do that. Our skin needs to be babied. I don't care how tough you think your skin is. You don't need to treat it like that. So think of your skin like a baby's ass. All of you. All of it is a baby's ass. Just kiss it. Don't fuck it. Okay. So now we're going to talk about the other kind of rosacea, and that is ocular rosacea. And I'm one of those lucky bitches that gets that too. And so what does that mean? That means, yes, you can get rosacea in your eyeballs. And that shit is not fun. Let me tell you. This is kind of a picture of what it looks like. But ocular rosacea is a painful condition. And there is a correlation of having blepharitis and rosacea. And so like today I have on my lash Lashify, and I would give anything if I could wear Lashify to bed. But this is one of the reasons that I don't wear lash extensions, you know, like the longer wearing lash extensions, or why I don't wear Lashify to bed. I mean, I have it on occasion, but I will always wake up with like a bump or something on my lash line when I do. It's just crazy. But that is really what happens to the eyes. The eyes are very, very red, they get irritated, they feel dry, they feel gritty. They're just not a good time. You get a burning and you get a stinging sensation, redness in the whites of your eyes, and then you also get light sensitivity. And I can always tell when I'm starting to get, I wouldn't say I get a flare of it, but when my eyes definitely they bother me. And this is why sometimes if I'm looking at things, or this is one of the reasons that I kind of from doing makeup, because it was getting harder for me to see what I was doing, especially when it was coming to putting on lashes, or even when I'm doing makeup on myself, because of the ocular rosacea, air blowing like I have the fan on right now, it can cause that burning, gritty feeling. The other thing is, in severe cases, you can also get blurred vision, which is not a good thing. It's always really important to stay on top of the ocular rosacea because it can cause severe eye damage. Now, one of the things that I do for mine, because it is tied to blepharitis, is I use these lid scrubs here, and this is the Ocusoft lid scrub. This is what my ophthalmologist put me on, and I'm supposed to use these twice a day. I might do them at night, but I definitely do them in the morning before I wash my face, and so I just kind of wash my face, and then I put this on, and then I kind of wash it again. So these are just to kind of clean the eyelash there, to get rid of the bacteria and germs and stuff and everything there, and it seems to help a little bit. The other thing that I do is when my eyes get really dry, or when the air is really dry in Texas, or when I was in Chicago, I use the Systane ointment at night before I go to bed, and yeah, it's literally like putting petroleum jelly inside of your eyeballs. And then I also use Restasis, which is another prescription medication that just keeps my eyes lubricated and more comfortable. And I have to tell you, I will be honest, I'm not really good at keeping up with it. I try, but there's times that I'll just like fall asleep watching Netflix or something, and then next thing you know, I'm waking up in the morning. But those are some of the things. But if you do not take care of your eyes when you have ocular rosacea, it can lead to corneal damage. So be sure that if you are having any problems with your eyes, to go talk to your ophthalmologist about it, talk to your dermatologist about it. Make sure that you keep that under control. The other thing is also using warm compresses on your eyes also helps with that. So some of the warning signs that you need to go see your doctor for your eyes is if you have any kind of vision change in your eyes, or if you get pain besides the irritation, and if you get light sensitivity that seems to be severe. If you get any kind of discharge out of your eyes, you also want to go see a doctor about that. And if you don't have any improvement after 2 weeks of home care, check in with your doctor again. Again, be an advocate for your own health. All right, let's talk about dietary approaches when it comes to rosacea. Yeah, we talked about the food, but again, I love coffee. I'm not going to give up my coffee. You will have to pry that from my cold, dead hands. It's like when I go to bed at night, I get so excited about the coffee that I'm going to get in the morning. Is anybody like that, or am I the only crazy neurospicy girl here? It's like, I'm going to go to bed. I can't wait for my coffee in the morning. As a matter of fact, just sitting here thinking about it, I get very excited about my coffee. But I don't drink my coffee very hot. I drink it kind of like not room temperature, but a little bit warmer than room temperature. Because if I drink hot coffee, it will definitely affect my skin. And then I also try to eat more Mediterranean style. My skin was actually really good when I did low carb, because sugars and things like that can definitely affect how your skin looks. And I have not been really watching what I've been eating lately, and I can tell you that my skin looks dull and just not so great. I'm not a big seafood eater, but seafood, anything with omega-3s are really good. I do eat a lot of extra virgin olive oil. I don't eat a lot of dairy. They say dairy can be good for the gut, like yogurt and things like that. I tend to do okay with the Fage. Yeah, I think that's how you say it, Fage yogurt. I say phage, but I think it's Fage yogurt. I use a little bit of monk fruit with that, and I do okay with that. But some people with rosacea, there's been a correlation. Some people say that dairy tends to trigger their rosacea flare. So again, your mileage may vary. Processed foods aren't good. Spicy foods are not good. But again, like my coffee, I am not going to give up my spicy food. I mean, one of the reasons I moved to Texas was for the Tex-Mex food. It's like, if I could eat Tex-Mex food or Mexican food, I would eat it all the time. So good. And I could eat jalapenos straight out of a jar. Those, believe it or not, don't tend to tear me up. Well, if they're really, really hot, I can feel my face kind of start to turn red. But if they're kind of the medium to the mild, I do. So sometimes I just like that extra kick. So don't stop enjoying your foods. Journey and journal what foods kind of tear your skin up, and then just say, okay, well, hot jalapenos, can I go down to the mild one, and then just see what happens? So that's what's worked for me, is just keeping a food journal and knowing what works and what doesn't. Don't give up life. Life is too good without spicy food and coffee. I can't imagine not having that in my life. I would die. You just might as well put a bullet in my head if they're like, you can't have coffee or spicy food. I'm like, just go ahead and kill me now, because it's over. Okay. So again, just find out what works for you. Okay. So let's talk about probiotics and rosacea, and how some studies show that probiotics reduce redness when they combined with antibiotics, but keep in mind, they don't work for everyone. Now, here are some kinds of probiotics that work, and for a lot of us, now I take the Lactobacillus strain, which is an anti-inflammatory. Again, hooked on phonics. I think that's going to be a theme for this podcast, hooked on phonics. Those tend to work. And again, this is the brand that I use. I get it from Amazon. It's not that expensive. It works great for me. But there are all different kinds of ways that you can get that into your probiotics, into your foods. You can also take supplements, and you can also eat fermented foods. That tends to work for some people. But they say, some of the studies that I've read, is it says you usually need to take it 6 to 8 weeks to notice a difference. I would say that I would start to see a difference in my skin after a couple of weeks. So again, journal your skin journey and see what works. Okay. Now, if the men are here listening, let me tell you, I didn't forget about you. I did not forget about you. I know I usually speak to the ladies, but for the men with rosacea, this one's for you. So testosterone may boost oil production, which worsens the thickening of the skin, especially in Rhinophyma. And what is Rhinophyma? Rhinophyma is basically a thickening of the skin around the nose. And they also call it a bulbous nose. There are definitely some celebrities here, or some prominent world figures that have been known for that bulbous nose. I think Winston Churchill was one of them. I think Bill Clinton. I'm going to put some of the celebrity pictures here that have been known to have the rosacea and the bulbous nose here, and that is from the Rhinophyma. That's that thickening of the skin. Now, when it comes to men and rosacea, it can be more disfiguring than a lot of women, and that's mostly because they are later to diagnose their rosacea, which means that they usually wait a year or two before they go to get diagnosed. By then, it can, get really bad. Now, there are some really great laser treatments that can help with that. And there's been one that popped up on my Google Alerts, because I get Google Alerts for rosacea that pop up. And I just read a study where there was this one new laser, and I'll about that in our laser episode, that really can help with that kind of disfiguring of that. But again, men, if you think that you could have rosacea, go ahead and get it checked out, because there's definitely an emotional toll that comes with rosacea that you don't want to ignore. And everybody deserves to have really beautiful skin. It just puts a little extra pep in your step. There's also some surgical options for the Rhinophyma, and there's also a topical and oral combination approach, and a very simple skincare routine is really important. Now, that doesn't mean you need to use like expensive bougie shit, but definitely things that are made for rosacea-prone skin definitely help, and keep it very, very simple. You know what? If it's in a girly package, hello, Sonia Roselli Beauty. Who cares? Treat yourself. Now, I know some of you men are out there like, bitch, yes, I just want all the bougie shit. So just to make sure that you always find some skincare that works for you, whether it's my line or something else, just find something that works for you. Now, finally, let's talk about what age we tend to see rosacea showing up. Now, rosacea can actually occur at any age, but it's predominantly as we get over 30. And that's when it usually starts to show up, and then it starts to get worse in our 40s and 50s and 60s. And usually only about, the studies that I read, it was only about 13% are under 30. So again, that's probably more of a genetic predisposition of having rosacea, but again, your mileage may vary. When you're in your 30s and your 40s, you start to get the hormonal onset and the shifts in your skin, and that tends to trigger your rosacea, which is kind of what was my story. So some of the age-related patterns that we see with rosacea is when you're in your 30s and 40s, your hormones start to shift, and that's when you're going to start to notice the flushing aging and things like that. And as you get closer to 40, which was my case, or in my case, I had a hysterectomy, which threw me into a flare. It was just triggered by hormonal events. And obviously, when you have a hysterectomy, your hormones go a little bit batshit. The other thing is it really does do well. I think I was very lucky because I understood skin and I kind of stayed on top of it. And that's why my skin doesn't look as bad today, is I started treating it very early. So the earlier you can start treating it, the better results that you're going to get and the better maintenance and plan that you can come and the better your skin's going to look. When you get in your 50s and 60s, you're also going to probably start to see, especially if you haven't treated it, you're going to start to see a lot more ocular rosacea kind of start happening. You're also going to get a lot of like the broken capillaries are going to start to show up a little bit more in your skin. And it's going to be a little bit more persistent than it is cyclical, because rosacea can be a little bit cyclical. Again, remember how it goes into remission and it comes back? Well, it's going to start to become a little bit more persistent if you don't start treating it. So it's really important to get a diagnosis early. Again, also too, we talked about how rosacea is not just for us pasty white girls. It can happen to anyone, but people with fairer skin tones tend to have a higher average for that. And so genetic factors definitely play a factor here. So genetic factors when it comes to rosacea are always a big deal here. Now, we know that rosacea can happen to anyone at any time and for any skin tone. But for those of us pasty white girls out there and white boys, we tend to just have a little bit more predisposition to it. And the other thing is that family member, thanks Grandma Rose, is if your family member has rosacea, you're 2 to 3 times more likely to get it. Now, my mother has rosacea, not nearly as bad as what I have. Hers is very mild. I don't think she has had any of the acne rosacea. I have had the acne rosacea because I'm lucky that way. And definitely say that 40 to 65% is genetic. So if you have somebody in your family that had it, and if you think you have it, you might definitely want to see your dermatologist sooner rather than later. So again, I have to say that I love the topic of rosacea. I could talk about this all day. I could study it all day. It's very fascinating to me. I hope one day that they will find a cure for it. But it's definitely one of those things that can really affect you emotionally. It gives you a lot of social anxiety. You don't want to go out with friends. Or when I first started experiencing rosacea, I felt that for the first time in my life, what it was like to not be able to cover something because it's your face, right? I mean, what are you supposed to do? Put a mask on? I mean, I guess in COVID, it would be great. You could just throw it on and nobody would know. But it definitely messes with your spirit. And life is just too short not to enjoy life. It affects your dating. It affects your relationships. And, a lot of people with rosacea that don't understand what it is, they end up having higher instances of depression. So again, rosacea is not curable, but it's definitely manageable if you get the treatment and things that you need and work with a dermatologist to kind of get it under control. So that is kind of my rant on rosacea. This is the Rosacea report, and these are all of the things that have worked for my skin. But I definitely have all of this broken down on my Substack, so you can go read it. It'll probably be a little bit of a long one. And, if you want me to put it in a downloadable cheat sheet or something like that, I can do that. Just leave me a comment where you see this on Substack. I can do that as well. And also, if you enjoy our podcast, please leave us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you watch the podcast. I'm not getting any reviews. I think I've gotten one review and I'm like, does nobody like me? I'm just kidding. But it would really help us to know if we're meeting the mark and talking about things and topics that you want to talk about. And again, don't forget to join us this Sunday, April 6th at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'm going to show you how you would cover your skin with makeup. And if you want to join along, don't feel like you can't wear makeup. You can definitely wear makeup. And the way that I'm going to teach you how to do it, it's not going to, people will know that you have makeup on. It's going to look so good. So if it's something that you want to do, even if it's just maybe going to get a photo taken, or maybe you have somebody's wedding to go to, your daughter's getting married or things like that, don't be afraid to wear makeup. And if you can get someone to put makeup on you for a wedding day to help with the redness of the rosacea, it will definitely look great in photos as well. So join our Substack, click on the link in the show notes and come join us over there. And again, give us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you watch. Any kind of review will really mean the world to me. It just lets me know if I'm meeting the mark for you and if I'm creating content that you want to listen to or read about. It really helps me help you. And also, too, if there's something that you want me to talk about on the podcast or in our Substack or even join our community, come on over. Let's party. I usually have snacks and drinks, and I'm going to start going live every week in Substack, so that's going to be a lot of fun. And if you want to check out our skincare, check out soniaroselli.com. All of this is done and made by me. I work with Japan and Korea, and it is really designed for those of us with sensitive skin and rosacea in mind. I also have this great cream cleanser that's coming out. I'm very excited by it. Oh, I can't wait for this one. This one's going to be fantastic. I also have a new eye cream coming out, and I'm hopefully having another cream cleanser coming out for those with oilier skin tones that are going to be fantastic. So again, overexfoliation is just not good for rosacea, and neither is cleansing with the wrong cleanser. So these are two of the big things that I'm working on in our line right now, and I can't wait for you to see them. So yeah, so I hope that you guys have a great Friday. Enjoy your weekend, and I hope to see you on Sunday on Substack. And if you cannot make it on Sunday, feel free to go back to Substack, where we're going to put up the replay as soon as we're done. Okay, everybody, thanks for joining us, and I will see you next Friday on Beauty and F-Bombs. See you soon.